Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Paul Harrell program, and it is a pretty busy Friday news day. We woke up to the news that somebody in the Iranian government says, hey, look, the strait is open. We now have reports that the Iranians are going to allow the United States to go in and get the nuclear dust. We have that. I mean, it appears that the blockade, President Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, has paid off because it was an economic choke point that, honestly, the Iranian government, is what's being reported, just couldn't continue to go on losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a day. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what the president has said. He is actually, I think about an hour ago, he left Las Vegas, President Trump leaving Las Vegas to fly to Phoenix, Arizona for a rally, which would be very interesting to hear from the president. If we can do it during this next 2 hours, I don't know if he'll actually be on the stage within the next 2 hours. I'm told he will be, but I don't know. So if that happens, we will cut to that. We'll cut to that footage live. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say in light of, apparently, it looks like the war is coming to a close. This war in Iran, it looks like it's coming to a close. It looks like there's going to be some sort of peace deal, and that we're hearing that it's going to be signed maybe over the weekend. It's a huge news. Also, RFK Jr. on Capitol Hill sparring with the Democrats, doing everything they can to try to undermine the Maha agenda. So we'll talk about that as well. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Just kind of checking in things here because we're going to be looking for this live feed. Going to be looking for this live feed all show just to make sure, kind of monitoring the situation. It is a Turning Point USA event going on right now in Phoenix, Arizona. And again, the president is supposed to speak there this evening. So we will, again, monitor that as it happens. We're broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas here on LFA TV, as well as the Paul Harrell program YouTube page, also over on X. So very much appreciate you guys doing all the things that a host wants you to do on all of the different platforms. We've got Sophie in the LFA chat saying, hello, Paul, Eric, and Rob. It's just me today, so I apologize. I'm sorry to disappoint. It is most of the time on Fridays. It is just me anchoring the show, so you have me, flying solo today. This was a strange week where both Eric and Rob were pulled away more times than they wanted to be. But, I have to say it is really interesting to see just how much this audience has come to really appreciate Rob Spencer, Eric Haynes being on the show. It is literally, you guys have no idea, literally my privilege for them to be on, for them to sacrifice the time to, do this show with me when they're able to do it. And it's also just really cool to see you guys respond so well to them and their opinions and that sort of thing. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys and all of the support. I was talking with Jeremy Harrell earlier this morning. He was saying, because we've been on now for about 8 weeks, something like that, maybe close to 7. But just talking about how the reception's been good. You guys seem to like what we've been what we've been putting out. So anyway, we do have a lot to get to. The first, I'm going to address the elephant in the room here first. Okay, is somebody who obviously I've not been a fan of the war in Iran. One of the main reasons I voted for President Trump was because I did not want new wars at all. And the danger, obviously, the big danger, just aside from the kinetic side of things and, our troops in harm's way, 13 American soldiers are dead. Aside from the big potential of the fear being another 30-year war, 20-year war, an endless war, it looks like that is not going to happen, praise the Lord. But I've been consistent, and not when the war started. My consistent prayer has been, we need peace. We need peace. We need to find an off ramp And it looks like that's exactly what's happened. This is less of an off-ramp, though. If everything holds the way it is looking, this is much less of an off-ramp and more of a win in terms of, in terms of the problem that we're told, right, is Iran, nuclear weapons, or, that it went from nuclear weapons to no enrichment, and now it's we want your nuclear dust. The, if that is the problem that is trying to be solved, according to reports, it looks like that's what's going to happen. And so from a political standpoint, it's certainly a win. The elephant in the room, though, is the division that took place on the right during this whole time, and it has certainly been destructive. There's no way around it, just in terms of the infighting overall of this. I actually saw, I thought it was a really healthy dialogue between Sean Farish and Viva Frey earlier in the week. Sean went on Viva's show, and I thought it was the topic of the headline was, infighting on the right. I thought it was a really good, healthy discussion, to go back and forth. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed for sure. But the infighting, now there's more infighting. It's saying, okay, well, you're a panicking, you were a panicking, we were right, you were wrong, and then the so-called panicans will say, well, if we hadn't panicked, we might not have we might not have gotten a resolution to the situation that we're all celebrating today. And I say to that, who cares? Can we make sure that the midterms don't go off the rails? We're all waiting for President Trump to show up at this rally in Phoenix, and the title of the rally, or the headline of the rally, is "Build the Red Wall." Build the Red Wall rally, I think, is what they're calling it. Idea being a red wall to prevent the Democrats from taking over the House, taking over the Senate, and impeaching President Trump for a third time. Although we do have news on that. The United States House of Representatives, in light of Tulsi Gabbard's declassification, thanks to the the chairman of the HIPSI there, Congressman Rick Crawford, who's my congressman actually, thanks to them declassifying everything, and now we know that, well, we already knew it, but now it's official. You can go read it in black and white, that the Ukraine impeachment over the perfectly good phone call was a total setup, and now the people involved, including the Inspector General Atkinson, have been referred to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Will the Department of Justice do anything? They better. But the key's got to be now focusing on everything. Like, great, the war is over. We hope this all sticks. We hope it's all permanent. We hope oil prices continue to go down, and we hope the deportations continue, and we hope that what's going on here domestically now takes the highest priority, instead of, like last week's show, that the show we did last week where we interviewed Jeff Younger. I think I titled that show Middle East Fatigue, because you had that Tyler Oliveira story that was exposing that the Indians in the H-1B visas were doing the exact same scams that the Somalians in Minnesota are doing, and over in California. And and by the way, on that, there's now, we'll get into this next week, but they're saying that if you think the hospice fraud is bad, if you think the early childhood education or the daycare fraud is bad, wait until you get a look at the autism fraud, the supposed, agencies or grants or businesses that are out there trying to take care of autistic children. Wait till you get into that, because it's even worse. It's even worse. Let's see. We've got Roxy Loves America 37 says, I agree with you, Paul. It's a tough spot sometimes. I didn't like the possibility of another war. However, I trust in God and understand Trump has tough decisions to make. No question about that. And yes, that was my whole thing too, was trusting in God. Even though I don't like the war in Iran, I also know that there are bigger things going on than just my political opinions in terms of whatever the plan of God is. I know that there are, 2 million Christians in Iran. I know that there are those Christians in Lebanon, 20, 30% Christian, maybe 40% Christian. A lot of people don't realize the stuff with Lebanon. I didn't realize this till I looked into it. The president of Lebanon is a Christian. The prime minister is either a Shia or Sunni Muslim, and the Speaker of the House is either a Sunni or a Shia, one or the other. I don't know. I can't remember which. But that's the way they do their government. In Lebanon, and they've got a Christian and 2 Muslims, 1 Shia, 1 Sunni, that are heads of state. That's part of their, I don't know if it's the Constitution, I don't know what, but it's part of the way they do their government. And all we hear of Lebanon is Hezbollah and how, they're in control of South Lebanon and the government won't get them under control, and the links to Iran. And I'm not disputing any of that, but when you get a ceasefire and then you immediately get a giant attack in a residential area in Beirut, not southern Lebanon, but Beirut, where there's a lot of Christians, that was really bad to me. That was really bad. And I think that's why President Trump said what he said today about Israel, essentially ordering Israel that the bombing in Lebanon is going to stop. As a matter of fact, let's get right to that. Let's get into the headlines here. Oh, but I want to say one more thing based on that comment that Roxy said here. I agree with you, Paul. It's a tough spot. Sometimes I didn't like the possibility of another war. However, I trust in God. Here's the deal. Whether we like it or not, whatever it is, I wake up every morning, my feet hit the ground, and guess what? For the time I have left on this life, the things that I'm doing as a Christian are a part of God's redemptive plan with all of these puzzle pieces. And I like to think that at the end, we're going to see how everything perfectly fit together. So for good or for bad, in the short term, or good or for bad in the long term, what happened in Iran is part, what is happening now with the Strait of Hormuz is part of God's plan of redemption. And ultimately, when things don't go the way I think they ought to go, it's not a cop-out either. It's actually quite freeing. That's not to say that we shut up or we don't express our displeasure when something goes bad, or a politician does something you don't like, or President Trump does something you don't like. No, not at all. It's not to say that you don't try to act. You don't try to, go forth, conquer, subdue the earth around you and all your spheres of influence. But it is saying, hey, look, there is a God, I'm not him, and we're going to act accordingly, okay? Act accordingly. So anyway, I wanted to follow up on that, make sure I make that point. Okay, so this was the news this morning when we woke up. We'll start with CNN. Headline, Iran declares Strait of Hormuz completely open for a remainder of truce in line with Israel-Lebanon ceasefire. And then we had Fox News breaking in. This is what it sounded like when they found out what the Iranian foreign minister said. Now, there is some debate, like, who exactly is in control of Iran right now? I don't really know. But the Iranian foreign minister said this.
We're just getting this in, so bear with us. Strait of Hormuz is on the screen for a reason. The Iranian foreign minister, who seems to be really the guy in charge, or at least publicly for Iran, just fired this off
even he doesn't
on
know.
A post on X.
And
I'm going to read it for you now. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So on that news, the stock market is flying through the roof. That opens in 28 minutes. So
yeah, that happened. Stock market went up, the Dow Jones and S&P. Then you had crypto also rising. You had oil falling. I don't know what the exact price of oil is right now, but you know what? We're going to look because we certainly looked when it was high. Hang on one second. I should have had this pulled. We certainly are. So 84. So it's down 7% today. $84 even, down 7.86%. So, it's obviously not where it was before the war started 30 days ago. but there's a good chance that that's where it's going to get, where we can get back down to that, $3, that average of $3. If you live in Arkansas like I do, if the average is $3, you're almost always guaranteed you're going to be paying, $2.70, $2.80 a gallon. So that's something. Here's President Trump. This is where he not only talked about the nuclear dust, but also talked about Israel and Lebanon. Quote, the USA will get all nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Thank you, President Donald John Trump. So there you have it. He says we're getting the dust. He says this Hezbollah or this Lebanon and Israel and Hezbollah situation are going to be handled in an appropriate manner. They're now, in peace talks. So that's very interesting, and we hope that. We pray for peace. We pray for the bloodshed to stop on both sides, on all sides. They are prohibited, but telling Israel that Israel's not going to bomb Lebanon any longer, quote, they are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Now, the reason why this is significant is because I do believe that the strait currently being open for business while the peace negotiations continue and possibly get to a written signed agreement, which there are rumors that President Trump may fly to Pakistan himself and sign it himself. I think it's contingent on this ceasefire continuing to operate. There were reports that after this was announced, there was an Israeli drone that killed somebody on a bicycle in Lebanon. But then Zero Hedge reported at 10:30 this morning the Israeli army was not informed of Trump's ceasefire decision and is preparing for its repercussions, according to the Israeli Broadcasting Authority. Here's moments ago, this was about an hour ago. About an hour ago, Fox News' Peter Doocy reports on what President Trump just told CBS News.
Yes, and President Trump just got on Air Force One for a quick trip to Arizona for an event that we'll see later on today. He didn't take any questions, but he just told CBS News, he basically explained why it is that he is so confident a deal is about to be closed with the Iranians. He says that they have agreed to let United States, not troops, just somebody from the United States, go in to Iran with some Iranian officials to collect leftover uranium, what he calls the nuclear dust, and then bring it back somewhere to the United States. That has been the key to all of this. The president earlier today disputed a report in Axios that the U.S. might unfreeze $20 billion in Iranian money in exchange for getting them to fork over all this uranium. He says not a dollar will be exchanged in any way. So we will definitely hear more about this once he gets to Arizona, but there's a lot happening, and it is possible that he doesn't want to get ahead of his team who are talking directly to.
Again, you heard him talking about Arizona, so that's what we are waiting on right now. I'm going to real quick check and see where we're at there. President Trump is not there yet, but as soon as President Trump starts to speak today, if we're on course, this is a 2-hour program. We're 21 minutes in, according to my clock. And so, if I got a feeling if President Trump takes the stage, it may not be for another hour or so. But I'll do my best. And by the way, chat, it's tough right now to monitor the chat. I know a lot of you guys are really keen on this, and I know when President Trump is speaking and we're live on the air and not covering it when he's live, you guys want it. So, and I know a lot of times you will tell us, hey, Trump is live. So if that happens, feel free to remind me, because flying solo here, running all of this equipment myself, isn't exactly easy. I don't have enough screens, I guess. So don't have enough monitors. But that is by choice. So then we can go to this next story here. I'm just going to tell you what Reuters is saying. So Reuters is saying that there are significant differences between Iran and the United States that still remain. And a senior Iranian official told Reuters this, adding that keeping the Strait of Hormuz open is conditional on the U.S. adherence to the terms of the ceasefire. And again, I think that's why President Trump had such strong and pointed language and essentially was ordering Israel to stop bombing Lebanon. The official who spoke on condition of anonymity. Now, again, this is Reuters, and I'll qualify all of this. I don't trust the mainstream media to tell me the truth about things happening in my country. I certainly don't trust them when it comes to telling me what's happening thousands of miles away in the Middle East, just like they lied to us about COVID. They lied to us about Ukraine, Russia, and I think we get lied to about what goes on in the Middle East. That being said, I'm just reporting it to you. Take it with a grain of salt. But, yeah, they certainly don't have. It's not even trust but verify. We are basically in the age, by the way, not just with the media, but still with our government, still with the intel oligarchy that has not been brought to heel, in my opinion. And there's no evidence, really, very little evidence that it has been. When people like John Brennan, James Clapper, Eric CIA Ramella, who was involved in the fake impeachment, the hoax impeachment of, when these people are in handcuffs and then eventually in jail, you'll be able to say, hey, yeah, I think some of this intel oligarchy, these people have actually been brought to heel. So now it's just verify. Verify, verify, verify. You know, Ronald Reagan's famous, trust but verify. That may have been great back in the day. That may be a great diplomatic phrase, which is essentially saying, I don't trust you because I got to verify it. I mean, it's kind of funny when you think about it. The trust is out the window in all of this stuff. There's so many moving parts, and our government is so still loaded full of communists that are out to sabotage, and there's all these competing interests, and you still have special interests and lobbyists going crazy right now. You got people making a ton of money on this war, by the way, on news of peace or no peace. Like, you know, I'm gonna buy low, I'm gonna sell high, I'm gonna short. That there's people that have made a lot of money on inside information during this 30 days. But anyway, Reuters says the official who spoke on condition of anonymity said no agreement has been reached on the details of the nuclear issues and serious negotiations are required to overcome differences. He said Tehran hoped that a preliminary agreement could be reached in the coming days with mediator Pakistan's efforts. The possibility of extending the ceasefire to create space for more talks on lifting sanctions on Iran and securing compensation for war damages. In exchange, Iran will provide assurances to the international community about the peaceful nature of its nuclear program, adding that any other narrative about the ongoing talks is a misrepresentation of the situation. So, and again, who is this again? This is an Iranian official. So we have an Iranian official unnamed in this report from Reuters. And over here we have the Iran's foreign minister that made the announcement that the strait is open. So who exactly is in charge in Iran? I mean, we don't really know. We don't really know exactly. From the insider trading standpoint, Unusual Whales, which I believe is a really good follow if you want to track some of the big money moves that are going on out there, especially surrounding, the war, but also other things. Just 20 minutes before Trump's announcement that the Strait of Hormuz was open, massive trades hit the market. Investors sold a combined 7,990 lots of Brent crude futures, a $670 million bet that oil would go down. These orders were much larger than anything else at the time. The traders made huge gains as usual. This is not the first time we saw this. We saw this and we reported it to you weeks ago. Where this was going on, where there was a whisper of peace. Oh, there's peace. Oh, we got a deal. People have been making a ton of money doing this stuff. President Trump's Truth Social. Let's see here. I've got a few of them. Iran. This was from this morning at 9:40 a.m. Central Time. Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again, he says. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world. Another quote, a great and brilliant day for the world. Thank you to Pakistan and its great prime minister and field marshal, two fantastic people. Again, this deal is not tied in any way to Lebanon, but we will make Lebanon great again. Iran, with the help of the USA, has removed or is removing all sea mines. Thank you, President Trump. You know, there was a report a few days ago, I think, that one of the reasons a lot of these ships are sticking to the Iranian coastline, aside from the fact that it's safer that way if they're trying to actually beat the American blockade, better chances that way. But one of the things is because allegedly Iran has put mines in the strait that they've forgotten about. They haven't tracked all their mines, is one of the reports that was out there. Donald Trump also thanking Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar for your great bravery and help. Obviously, they were attacked, right? I mean, when we started the war and launched the attack, not only were our bases hit, but also these countries were hit. President Trump thanking them for their bravery. He says, now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO. Now, so speaking of allies, our Gulf Arab allies, what about our NATO allies? So I've got I don't know if I've got a nuanced opinion on this, or I'll refer you to my comments about God being in control. But he says, now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO asking if we would need some help. I told them to stay away unless they just want to load up their ships with oil. They were useless when needed. A paper tiger, President Donald J. Trump. So on this particular front, I don't like NATO. I haven't liked NATO for a very long time. I think the NATO countries are essentially, specifically Western Europe. Okay, let's get one thing straight here about NATO. NATO was created to protect Christian Europe from the godless communists in the Soviet Union. Can we agree that that's why NATO was created? The problem with NATO now is that Europe isn't Christian anymore. They're not. And Russia is actually, in 2013, let's just look at Russia. Obviously, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. And yeah, Vladimir Putin may want to reassemble it in some way. Obviously, they're not going to call it the Soviet Union, but, it may want those provinces, those states, if you will, to come back into the direct sovereign control of Russia. I would imagine that's exactly what he wants. But Russia passes laws outlawing LGBTQ propaganda. They passed that law in 2013, and they've only strengthened it since getting further. And yet, over in Europe, if you want to become part of the European Union, you are not allowed to do so unless you have legalized gay marriage. I want you to think about that just for a second. And there's a bunch of other things we could compare, but on those two things, let's just talk about that, because the whole Ukraine, NATO versus Russia situation was always so frustrating to me, especially when Russia invaded Ukraine. You had the head of MI6, and you can go look this up. The head of MI6 took to Twitter, was lamenting about, oh no, all of the progress we've made with the LGBTQ rights in Ukraine are now going to go away. I'm like, wait a second, that's what you're worried about? You're worried about LGBTQ? You're worried about sodomy? Like, that's really, oh no, Russia invaded Ukraine. What are the sodomites going to think about this? Or what are they going to do? It was just odd. And that's not the only one, by the way. Like, there was a lot of people that were very concerned with gay rights when Russia invaded. So I'm just simply pointing out that if originally NATO was designed to protect Christian Europe from the godless communist Soviets, who are the godless Soviets, or who are the godless communists today? And so let's look at Europe. If you want to be in Europe, you got to have a gay marriage law, okay? If you are mad about the demographic replacement that's been going on with your virtue signaling leaders, if you're mad about that and you post on Facebook about it, you're going to get arrested, whether you're in Germany or whether you are in Great Britain, whether you're in England. They're actually jailing, according to some reports, more European citizens than Russia puts in jail for they've got speech controls over there too. Don't misunderstand me. But who are the godless communists of today? And the fact of the matter is, as Europe has become less and less Christian, their governments have become more and more totalitarian. Let me say that again, because this is also going to be true of us if we go down the same path. The more godless a society becomes, and in Europe, in this case we're talking about Europe, the more totalitarian their societies get. Do you know why? Well, it's because the state begins to think that it's God, and if it's God, they get really upset with any of the Christians that think that there is a power higher than the state, which was the whole point of calling the Soviet Union godless, by the way. That's why Reagan talked about the Soviet Union as being godless, because in a truly communistic society, there really is no room for belief in a higher power. Now, I know many of you all know this, but so in the context of this war in Iran that I did not support, one of the things that may have come out of this that is a good thing is that we may get out of NATO. And it's kind of interesting if you kind of look at what Trump may be doing here, because if Trump is upset that the NATO countries did not help us in our war with Iran, it's kind of funny because NATO is basically us in a way. And I'm not saying that I know this to be true, but it could be that Donald Trump is looking at any excuse he can find to get out of NATO. And this is a great one. Okay, because it's kind of funny if you think about it. Europe doesn't really have an army. They don't really have a military because they rely on NATO. Well, NATO is us. We're the ones that are we majority fund it. We maintain our bases over there. Like that's what NATO is. NATO is us. So Trump is actually, you could make the argument, criticizing NATO by not relying on us. He's kind of, it's circular. I think it is circular logic here. But NATO hasn't made sense for a very long time. They also were giving pushback on the whole Greenland thing, which I don't know how you feel about the Greenland thing. I think we should debate it. But again, silver lining, in my opinion, instead of pretending like we're benevolent and pretending like, oh, we don't believe in empire, we don't believe in colonialism, when at the same time, the IMF comes in and gives some third world country a loan they know they won't ever be able to pay back. And then when they can't pay it back, the IMF comes in and says, well, we know you can't pay this back. We anticipated that. That's why we gave you the loan. But if you'll give us your mineral rights and your oil or your rare earth minerals, then we'll call it even. We'll basically enslave you with debt. But hey, we're not colonial. We don't actually own your country, but you really do, right? So that's been the status quo like this entire time, versus what looks like we're reverting back to like a pre-World War I situation where whether it's right or wrong, and again it's up for debate, whether it's right or wrong, like bigger countries with more resources and who are more technologically advanced tend to take over other countries and make that land their land. That's just that's human history. the way we've been doing it with the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF and the Global Bank and all this other stuff is actually a blip on the radar compared to the thousands of years of human history where if you've got a bigger standing army, you tend to be able to take over other countries. And I much prefer that. I get very annoyed with, this is the most transparent administration. I get annoyed with it. I think it gets used when it's obviously not true. But I do think it's transparent and a good thing to just say, yeah, you know what, Greenland, we need that. And we're just going to take it. Or we're going to try to work out a deal, and if we can't, we'll take it. The same thing with Cuba. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not saying we need to go into Cuba. I want to focus on America. I want to focus on America. I have Middle East fatigue. I have geopolitical fatigue. Okay, that's where I'm at right now. But again, I'm not the president, and I'm not making these decisions, and I don't have access to all of the information that he does and everybody else does, around him or whatever. I'm just a talk show host, okay? I'm just a journalist who is doing a talk show host, so I get it wrong sometimes. But these are just my feelings on it. It would be for a war that I don't support. It would be a huge silver lining if one of the things we get out of this is we're out of NATO. That we're out of NATO. I feel like that would be great. That would be fantastic news. All right, let me see here. Let me check in. I want to see where President Trump is at. We're going to see if he is not speaking yet at the Build the Red Wall rally. Again, when he does, we will bring that to you just as soon as we can. All right, what do we got here? Peaches says, I agree. I don't know if you're talking about me. You're saying you agree with me? Let's see here. What else do we have on this Friday? By the way, happy Friday. You guys got anybody have any big plans for the weekend? Here in my neck of the woods, we're in the middle of a weird drought. Normally, we should have tornadoes coming down Main Street every other day because it's April. Knock on wood. We're in a drought. We have a burn ban on. We're in my little corner of northeast Arkansas, and generally I refer to Arkansas affectionately as the Shire. We have not had the rain that we need. The farmers, by the way, are hurting right now because of this lack of rain. But at the same time, we haven't had any destructive tornadoes. I feel like the Midwest north of us has had more of this destructive weather than anything. But anyway, yeah, sound off what you're doing on the weekend. Because, see, I would love to do, if brisket prices weren't so high, I'd love to throw a brisket on. But then again, it may rain tomorrow, and we kind of need the rain. So let's see here. In Mississippi, we got a shout-out to Kathy Ratcliffe in Mississippi, southwest Mississippi. She says, yes, we are dry. We are dry here, too, in southwest Mississippi. Let's see. We've got X Machine says, off work for the first time in over a week and have to work on the weekend. That's no good. That's no good at all. So anyway, feel free to sound off. We're here waiting on President Trump to speak. And again, it may be another hour before he actually takes the stage. But we'll do our best to bring you the latest coverage there. So we got through President Trump's tweets here. No. Hang on one second. Do we have any more? Or his Truth Social posts about NATO? Let me refresh and see if he said anything else. Hang on one second. This is giving me a headache here. There we go. Okay, yeah. So he says, I haven't read this yet, but I'm going to throw this up here. Later today, I will be speaking to a big crowd for Turning Point USA in the great state of Arizona, then flying back to the White House, and therefore will not be at Mar-a-Lago tonight for the very special event honoring the wonderful congressman from Texas's 13th Congressional District, Doc Ronnie Jackson. He's a good friend, 100% MAGA, one of the most talented medical doctors and politicians in our country. Happy birthday, Ronnie. So anyway, he's en route to Arizona, to Phoenix specifically, Build the Red Wall rally, and he's going back to D.C. I would imagine he's going back to D.C. to work on peace in the Middle East. What do you guys think? Here we go. Next up, Little fallout. Aaron McIntyre says about this news that we may have the strait open, or we do have the strait open, and we may be getting peace. Aaron McIntyre, this is kind of where my mind went. Great, fairly confident. Oh, he says fairly confident Israel will try to break the deal, but I hope the administration holds them to it. He says strait open. Iran isn't getting nukes. Bring our troops home. This is the part I was agreeing with here. Bring our troops home and focus on getting foreign hordes out of our country. This right here is where my head is at. Because, and I love the use of the word hordes. I've been using that word too. Barbarian hordes, actually. It is insane. Like, what's going on in Texas is crazy. We're talking about, okay, while we're on the subject of war, okay, it does look like our country lost a war in some places, okay? Look at New York. Let's just take New York for a second. New York. Now, you may say, well, okay, that's liberal. Okay, yeah, I get it. And they're going to get what they voted for. And it's a really sad thing. I think Eric and Rob, when they were on the show, back when the whole Mondani thing was going on, like, they were really focused on the Mondani. Can you believe that New York's going to elect it? I just didn't care. We've talked about it, but we haven't talked about Mondani as much as some of these other platforms have, because I'm just like, it's New York, man. Like, and I probably have a lack of sympathy for what I know is coming for that city. And it's just one of those things where I don't, maybe it's because I live in the South and, I know we have completely different values. I mean, for goodness sake, we talked about yesterday, there was a squirrel that got inside Yankee Stadium, and it was like Clark Griswold's grandfather in Christmas Vacation. These grown men were scared in slow-mo. We're scared of a squirrel. I don't know, microcosm of what's wrong with New York. But they're going to get what they voted for, and it's going to be really, really bad. It's going to be really bad for them. And so I really should have some more, Christian sympathy for what's coming, right? Because, but I kind of don't. I mean, just to be honest, I really don't. And I also just am kind of bored with the whole. Well, did you hear what Mondani said? Right? I mean, we'll still cover it, but I'm personally bored with it. But I'll talk about him for a second. He took furniture out of the mayor's office. This is, former America's mayor Rudy Giuliani, right? You look inside his office, and there's no furniture there, and he and a bunch of these Muslims are all sitting on the ground. It's so strange to me. Just so anti-Western civilization that we get rid of furniture. Get rid of our nice things. Likewise, in Texas, the H-1Bs, the H-1B Indians, have invaded Texas to such a degree, they were allowed, and I say that, yes, somebody had to allow them to build a 90-foot tall monkey statue. A 90-foot tall monkey statue in Texas. I'm pulling it up right now because I didn't anticipate going here today. No, I'm sorry, not money statue, monkey statue. There it is. Do we have a video of it? Hang on one second. The video of it is pretty impressive. Well, yeah, there it is. Yeah, September. Look at this, right? This is insane to me. This is absolutely insane. Look at this. If you thought the Monkey Man statue, Brandon, was big, the Hanuman statue in Texas, it's over 90 feet tall. Okay, now, so back to barbarian hordes taking over our country, whether coming across the border illegally or coming in through our politician-approved H-1B program. This is a pagan god, okay? That's what you're looking at here. This is a pagan god. I wish Rob were here. wish Rob were here. We're not going to kill that. This is a pagan god. Now, this would be what, I know everybody's going to be like, what about America's religious pluralism? I'm sorry. America was founded as a pan-Protestant country. The Catholics had Maryland, okay? But for the most part, this country was a Protestant country. And this looks like, this is in Texas. This isn't in New York, where they're moving the furniture out for the Muslims, or they're having Muslim prayer calls. This is another religion. This is the Indian. That is look, do you see the size of this thing? So you look across our country and you're like, wow, it looks like we lost a war. It looks like we lost a war, and they built this statue to commemorate their victory over America. Now, you may not be supposed to, maybe you're not supposed to say that, or you're not supposed to notice that, but I mean, we've got a lot of work to do here. And you go watch that Tyler Oliveira. I always have a terrible time pronouncing his name, but that great work that he did, interviewing these Indians. And yeah, some of them seem like really nice people. I think they have completely different values, and especially when they are asked, do you like America or do you like India? And they're like, oh, India all the way. And then you listen to that girl like, yeah, all the people I grew up with in my hometown in India are now here. And I don't know what the name of the town was. I don't know, some Indian name. I don't know. And some Indian name of a town. And she said, yeah, I mean, it's basically like, it's like that town. And she named the name. That town is here now. The town I grew up in India is now here, because I see people I grew up with that are now living here. And then you listen to them, and not all of them, but a lot of them were like, oh, no, India. Oh, I love India. Oh, over America? Absolutely. So they're literally just here to exploit, to conquer, and to supplant our culture, American culture. We asked Annie Cyrus, grew up in Iran for 15 years, was given 100 lashes over the course of her life, grew up as a Muslim, obviously. Her grandmother smuggled her out when she was 15 via Turkey. She made it out alive. She ended up in America. She was an agnostic atheist. She eventually came to faith in Christ. Her testimony we have on our channel. It's a great story. But I said, Annie, can anybody be an American? Because that's what we've been told. We've basically been told anybody can be an American. That's where we get this whole thing. And they try to equate what's going on now with Ellis Island. You mean Ellis Island, which was taking in a bunch of people from Western Europe, which had already figured out how to get along because we had gone to war with France and England. Everybody had been to war with each other for forever. That Western Europe let's also take into account. You have to take into account, the racial component of that as well. We're talking about mainly just white people is who we're talking about. And it is just a sociological fact. Homogenous societies have less problems, when it comes to having a functioning society. It just is what it is. It's just the way the world is. May not be how you want it to be. Not gonna be how it's gonna be in eternity. But it is how it is now. Babel, the Tower of Babel, we're still experiencing the effects of the Tower of Babel. Even though the gospel's going forth and transforming the world, there are still individual nations with their particular cultures and customs. Definition of a nation, right? Common ancestry and common language. If you don't have that, that's not a nation. And so this idea, I asked Annie Cyrus, I said, Annie, can anybody become American? And she literally grew up Muslim, moved here, became a Christian, and I was thinking she was going to say no. Or I'm sorry, I was thinking she was going to say yeah. And she says no. She says no, that's actually wrong. Anybody can't become an American. And yet we have this whole thing that really revolves around the idea of magic soil, which is, this is when they say, oh, in America, America's an idea. Well, I mean, I suppose that could be true but the problem is the idea. The problem is people can move here and reject the idea and then use our system to eliminate the idea, to destroy the idea of America. And I think the fundamental truth of this is people just don't want it. I don't think people want this. They want the derivatives of this. They want the prosperity. They want the spoils of war, and this is a war. It's just a different kind of war. It's a war where we try to virtue signal. It's like a virtue signaling war. The border is racist. But that is what it is. And I'm sick of it. So whether it's New York City or whether it's Texas, folks, this is in Texas. What are we doing? What have we allowed to happen? What have our leaders allowed to happen? This is what we have to reverse. This is what we got to get rid of. And it starts with first understanding that this idea that anybody can become an American once you get here. Once you get here and your feet touch American soil, you just all of a sudden, you go get a tri-tipped hat, and you start singing Yankee Doodle Dandy, and you love Thomas Jefferson and John Witherspoon and Benjamin Franklin and George Washington. You just love those guys. You just love our heritage, and you just wrap yourself in the Declaration of Independence with an American flag. Yeah, that doesn't happen. That hasn't happened. That has not happened. So something's got to give. And we need to get on with it. Get on with it. Hey, in other news, this is great news. The House of Representatives now is moving to expunge President Trump's impeachment over the Ukraine phone call. This, of course, is a big thanks to Tulsi Gabbard and everything that she is doing for this administration. She is doing a fantastic job. Derek Evans says House Republicans moving to expunge Trump's fake Ukraine impeachment hoax. Jim Jordan confirms House is moving to wipe the illegitimate 2019 impeachment from the record. Justice is coming. Deep state hoax exposed. America first. People gotta go to jail. Eric CIA Ramella gotta go to jail. Okay? All of this has got to happen. All of this has got to happen. Derek Evans, House Republicans are finally doing what millions of Americans have demanded for years. So here's the deal. This kind of is a great segue. Do we have that next up? Next up is RFK Jr. Well, let's go into it now, okay? Because this is a big deal. We'll go back. We'll come back to RFK Jr. here because this is a perfect segue. People got to go to jail. Yeah, not just the people that literally, like Michael Atkinson, the Inspector General, who's supposed to be the intelligence community watchdog. And Michael Atkinson participated in the scheme with Adam Schiff and the phony CIA Ramella whistleblower and Alexander Vindman and all of that stuff. And now we know that it was all nothing. They made it out by the whole cloth. There was no evidence. And Atkinson, even though the DOJ declined to do anything about it, Atkinson then took it to the Congressional Committee anyway, and they were all coordinated. Adam Schiff needs to go to jail. Eric CIA Ramella needs to go to jail. Alexander Vindman needs to go to jail. Michael Atkinson needs to go to jail. All of these guys got to go to jail. You know who else has to go to jail? That would be anybody that was a part of abusing the FISA process to spy on Donald Trump and frame him for treason. Now, I'm sorry. I know President Trump is on board with renewing FISA 702. We've talked about this now for 3 days. I get it. I respectfully disagree with the president because, let me just, if you even want to, this is just me personally, and again, I'm just a talk radio host. That's what I used to do. I was in talk radio for 10 years in Arkansas. So now we have cameras. Great, fantastic. I had to learn all of this stuff. It was much easier when I was just in a closet by myself with a microphone with no cameras, honestly. Which, by the way, you know what's funny about that is Rush Limbaugh used to say that this is like one of the only jobs. By the way, love Rush Limbaugh, grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh. back in the old radio days, when you were in of course I was in like a closet for a long time, closet with a microphone. And this is one of the only jobs that, because nobody's here right now. Eric's not here. Rob's not here. This is one of the only jobs that if you guys weren't listening to this and I was just going into a studio and talking to myself, that it would literally be an insane thing. Like it would be insanity. Like if I just did this without any audience, I was just speaking to, thinking it's kind of funny. If you take away the audience and yet I still did this and nobody was listening, and it didn't go across, to some RTMP server, or it didn't go across to the radio tower and out across the airwaves, and you just did it, people would be like, man, that guy's crazy. He just goes into a closet and talks to himself for 2 hours every day. Thankfully that we do have an audience, or it would be psychotic, right? I'm just a talk radio host at heart. So take this with a grain of salt. If you want to have even a conversation about continuing to shred our Fourth Amendment right to privacy, if you even want to have a conversation about it, I don't think it'll go well, not with me, but I would entertain the conversation about renewing FISA 702 if anybody that has been in the news that used it to spy on President Trump and to spy on other people like George Papadopoulos and everybody else, if anybody had been a part of that had a public trial and had been sentenced and gone to jail, I might even have the conversation if they had been indicted and were awaiting trial. But exactly 0 people who did this have been held accountable. And you want to ask for more? You want to ask us to say, okay, continue spying on Americans. Well, it's national security, don't you? Well, it was they told us it was national security last time. This gets back to my trust but verify. That is over. The trust but verify is over. It is only verify. There is no trust. There is no trust. We should have lost that trust. And I don't care who's president. I certainly, don't care at this point who's in the Department of Justice, because obviously Pam Bondi getting fired was fantastic, but now we've got Todd Blanche. I don't trust him. And in the beginning I trusted Kash Patel, but now we've got this, we got 2 tracks of the pipe bomber story, and I kind of think that Steve Baker is onto something. I think he's onto something. So no, the trust is gone. It's only verify. And if you want it back and you want reforms, or you want to tell us there are reforms, you better arrest somebody. But I mean, they get the right guy. Get the right guy this time. And it's not just one. It's a plethora of these intel oligarchs that think they're above the law and use this whole apparatus and weaponized it, but not just against the American people. I'm sorry, not just against President Trump, but against the American people. All of the CIA tools that were used in the Maidan Revolution, not all of them, the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine in 2014, by the way, that was right after they passed the anti-LGBT law. Isn't that weird? Russia passes the anti-LGBT law in 2013, and then we supplant the Russian-friendly president. Anyway, I digress. They used these tools that they had run color revolutions. We all know that's what CIA does. That's basically what they're tasked to do. Hey, if you need to foment a coup, you guys have the tools to do that. That's why we fund. For American interest. A lot of times it's not in America's interest, but hey, you know what? That is what that's what espionage is. They took those tools and turned it against us for at least the last 10 years here domestically. That's what they did, and they used the FBI to do it. And so I'm sorry, but no thanks. This headline is actually welcome news, in my opinion, and it's because I can't get on board with this. The Fourth Amendment. You know what they have done to the Fourth Amendment is what they want to do to the Second Amendment. This FISA 702 crap is the red flag law of the Fourth Amendment. Red flag laws with the Second Amendment, of course, is, hey, if you get a complaint filed against you, a judge can take away your guns. A couple years ago, they killed a guy up in Connecticut or wherever that had red flag laws. They just went up to his house and killed him because some judge listened to a complaint about how this guy's a danger, potentially to himself and to others. So the judge uses the red flag law. The cops show up to disarm the guy, and shocker, the guy didn't want to be disarmed. So guess what? The cops shot and killed him in his home. That's exactly what has already happened. This FISA 702 is the red flag law of the Fourth Amendment. And they basically tried to use it to kill this country. And they got caught. But nobody's been put in jail for it. Nobody's been tried for treason or whatever the appropriate statute is. So again, if you even want to have a conversation about it, please put somebody in jail. Then maybe we'll talk about renewing FISA 702. In the dead of the night, ABC News reporting in the dead of the night at 2:09 a.m. on Friday, the House passed a bill to extend FISA through April 30th by unanimous consent after Republicans tanked procedural votes on the controversial warrantless surveillance law. The short-term extension buys GOP leaders more time to continue negotiations amid Republican infighting over the program that was set to expire on Monday. The program allows the federal government to collect communications of foreigners abroad without a warrant, including when those people are interacting with Americans. According to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the U.S. government believes it's a vital tool for protecting the country against hostile foreign adversaries, including terrorists, proliferators, and spies, to inform cybersecurity efforts. And you see, here's the deal with that. I don't even believe that it only stops with foreign. It's like, well, we only initiate process when you're talking to a foreigner. I mean, I'm to the point now, like the FISA 702 is only to make this something admissible in the court of law. Like, that's all I mean, it's like, it is, that's why they need it, because otherwise, look, they're collecting and listening to everything you say right now anyway. They are in total violation of your Fourth Amendment right now. The question is, could they submit that to a judge if they had to explain how they got it? And the answer is, in most cases, no. But the mass data collection and surveillance can kind of tell them where they need to go get a warrant. Now they go get the warrant. Now they have it. Now this portion of what we wanted is legal, and we can submit it in a prosecution. That seems to be, to me, the game they're playing here, because they're going to say, "Oh, you don't want, we've got to be able to spy on foreigners." And yeah, I think so. I know that we always have, but when it came time to an American citizen, there were, and you know what? Maybe the better answer would be to take these foreigners who are not loyal to the United States and kick them out of our country. I don't know. You guys tell me where I'm wrong. I'm fine with that. That's just where I'm coming from. And the reason I'm kind of here with this, the reason I'm on this little soapbox, is because if President Trump, who literally, this program was used to target him, and if we don't make the stand here, it'll never happen. Like, if the most recent example is like the guy that they framed for treason, and then I also believe tried to kill at Butler and on his golf course, if that guy, if he now supports it, it'll never go away. Like, if the guy that literally suffered because of it, it'll never go away. So I feel like this is like the only shot that we legitimately have to get rid of it. And after this, it'll just be there and in perpetuity. But if anything, maybe this, you know what? We do need to arrest somebody for this. You know what? When James Comey signed that letter, and it was clearly a lie to the FISA court, or whoever lied to the FISA court. Yeah, you know what? We need to take action. We need to do something about this. Just something to think about. Let me see here. Oh, Looks like this is President Trump speaking live, and let me shut my mouth.
25, we achieved the largest drop in violent crime ever recorded. That's despite all of these people that came into our country. Many of them are now gone, I'm pleased to tell you. The murder rate, isn't it a terrible thing to be talking about murder rate? But you got to say it. At least if it's good news. I guess it's good news. But the murder rate reached the lowest level in over 125 years. 1900. The year 1900, before my father was born. My father was great. Before he was born, the flow of deadly fentanyl pouring across our border is down by an astounding 59%. And as you probably noticed, if you watch the news, illegal drugs coming in by ocean or sea are down by 97%. 97. And we're trying to find out who the 3% is, because I consider them to be perhaps the bravest people anywhere in the world.
All right, we're listening to President Trump. 1 second. I'm trying to set things up here, folks, so bear with me.
They don't watch television or something. We passed the largest tax cuts in American history, the largest spending cuts in American history, the largest regulation cuts in American history, and the largest investment in border security in the history of our country. And starting my first day in office, we banned the transgender mutilation of our children. And we made it the official policy of the United States of America that there are only two genders, male and female. That was easy. Could you imagine if I was up here 20 years ago or 15 years ago, probably 12 years ago, and I said, there are only two genders, male and female. People would say, what the hell is he saying that for? Is he crazy? That's got to be the worst speech I've ever heard. Why is he saying that? Or why is he saying that we got men out of women's sports? Can you imagine saying that 15 years ago? 15 years ago, if you said, and we got men out of women's sports, the audience would say, what's wrong with that guy? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And we got critical race theory out of our schools. And we abolished DEI across the entire federal government. And we eliminated so-called affirmative action in federal contracting and university admissions. If you get great marks and have great scores, and your boards are good, everything is good, you're getting in. People can't go before. We have a country now that, again, is based on merit. That's the way we became great. But we have to win the midterms, and all of these things, it'll stay with us forever. But if we don't win the midterms, I said it during my State of the Union speech when I interviewed and talked to some people backstage. I said, you know, I'd like to have some of these people called out for their greatness. And we gave out, as you know, that night, the Congressional Medal of Honor to a young man who was flying a helicopter with practically his legs shot off. And he landed in Venezuela perfectly with a lot of men on board, like 48. And if that goes down, the Venezuela incredible attack, nobody killed, hundreds of millions of barrels of oil taken out. The relationship with Venezuela is great. We're working. It's like a great partnership. But if that doesn't happen, we looked at the Democrats. Not one was clapping. Medal of Honor. Then we interviewed a mother, a beautiful mother, whose daughter was slashed from behind by a maniac. She could hardly stand. It was 8 months ago. She could hardly stand, crying uncontrollably. Not one Democrat was clapping. Then we introduced a war hero from 100 years. He was 101 years old. Gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor for his great heroics. Wasn't recognized until I came along. Not one Democrat clapped. Not one Democrat clapped. And now they don't want to pay our border security, and they don't want to pay our great patriots of ICE. You know, ICE is a tough job. You got those murders that they allowed into our country. Think of it. Thousands of murders came into our country. 11,888, 50% of whom killed more than one person. These are violent criminals, and ICE is tough. And I don't want that job, and most of you don't either. I have a couple of friends in the front row, and they're tough people, but they're not that tough. They don't want that job. And if we don't have ICE, and if we don't have our great Border Patrol, and if we don't have our great policemen, and all of these people, they're incredible. They keep our country great. They keep our country safe. And the Democrats want to defund them. They want to defund ICE. They want ICE terminated. And you know, whether you're liberal, conservative, doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, independent, it's crazy. And I looked at them as we went through about 7 moments when you had to clap, and they didn't. I said, these people are crazy. They're crazy. And you know, I don't know if you noticed, the word was passed to them from people that were watching, I guess, on television, maybe standing backstage. They said, this guy is killing you. Start clapping. And the last half hour, they were clapping for everything I said. They were clapping for everything, things they shouldn't have been clapping for, because they heard they were getting killed. Just remember that night. That night was a very telling night. And we don't want to go back to that. We don't want open borders where millions of people pour into our country. We want to have safe borders. We want people coming into our country, but they want to come in, and we have to have them come in legally. Very simple. So I signed a historic executive order starting the process of shutting down the Federal Department of Education and sending education back to the states. Thank you, Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon. You know, education, move back to the states where it should be. You don't want to have a bureaucrat from Washington who couldn't care less about your community telling you how to educate your child. You have your local boards and your parent groups. One thing, I know you love your children. I'm not sure that they do. But we've largely removed education. We just did it. Just move them back. You know, we're supposed to go through a long process. Thank you, by the way, to Linda McMahon. She's been fantastic. Been fantastic. And we removed over 300,000 bureaucrats from federal payrolls. They had sometimes 10, 11, 12 people to do one job, and they just sit there. And you know what? I have a lot of respect for whatever. But you can't run a country like that. You can't, as the expression goes, has anyone ever heard of it? Make America great again. You can't make America great again when you do that. So we've done that, and you know, many of those people are very happy, because right now more people are working in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. And many of those people that had these boring, lousy jobs where they weren't even jobs. Federal government, they went out, they got jobs in the private sector, because we have the most people working that we've ever had before. And they're making more money and enjoying their job. It's sort of an amazing phenomenon. After decades of other countries stealing our jobs and plundering our wealth, thanks to our strong policy on tariffs, we cut our gaping trade deficit. Now, if you do 1%, you're considered like a genius. If you do 2 or 3%, it's unheard of. We cut it by 59% this year, our trade gap. It's the largest drop of a trade gap. Think of it. It's the largest drop in history, the history of our country. 59%. Can you believe it? So if you're a genius with 1%, and really a super genius at 3. What are you with 59? I don't know. As part of our tax cuts, we delivered, a lot of you benefited by this, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, No tax on Social Security for our great seniors. You know, the great big beautiful bill is really the great big beautiful tax cut bill, but it was also, we gave you the right to deduct your interest payments on a car loan, but only if it's made in the USA. That's been incredible. You never had that right before. And this week, millions of Americans received the largest tax refunds of their lives. The average is more than $4,000 per filer. Think of that. So nobody knew this was going to happen, but now they're getting their refunds back, and they're much larger than I said. In other words, I under-exaggerated, which is good. And in 4 long years, Sleepy Joe Biden, have you heard of him? What a president, what a disaster. But the whole party, it was the party. He didn't run the country. The people surrounding the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, they ran the party. Radical left lunatics. But in 4 long years, Sleepy Joe Biden got less than $1 trillion invested in our country, much less. And in 12 months, so think of it, 4 years. Ours is 12 months, and it's actually 11 because we haven't gotten the last month. So in 11 months versus, think of that, versus 4 years, they did less than $1 trillion. In 11 months, we did $18 trillion of new investments coming into our country. And that's a record for any country anywhere in the world by a lot. And the king of Saudi Arabia told me when I was in Saudi Arabia, they invested $2 trillion in our country. But he looked at me, he said, you know, Mr. President, a short time ago, we viewed the United States as a dead country. We thought it was dead. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And he's right, the hottest country anywhere in the world. For years before I took office, people thought that America was in decline, that our best days were in the past, and that the sun was setting on American power. But no one thinks that anymore, because we are indeed the strongest, the hottest, the best country anywhere in the world. And you know what? Nobody laughs at us anymore. They were laughing. They thought we were a laughing mess. Under this administration, America is on the march, and America is on the rise like we haven't seen maybe ever before. We are respected again as a country, and we're respected at levels that nobody thought possible. Unlike past leaders, this administration does not apologize for American power. We are not ashamed of American might, and we do not hesitate to defend the American people, which is what we've been doing for the last 2 months, because Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. For years, we were ruled by fools who let every third-rate country push us around and bleed us dry on trade and everything else they could get away with. They took advantage of us on trade, not any more than that. But those days are over, and they're gone forever. America was not founded by weak and timid men who cowered in the face of evil or sat by as danger loomed and let our country go to hell. We are descended from the likes of George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Generals Ulysses S. Grant, Douglas MacArthur, General George Patton. Our ancestors knew exactly what to do with America's enemies. Beat them and beat them good. That's what they had to do. That's what they had to do. And if NATO teaches us any one thing, and I hope you all watched, because they weren't there for us, if it teaches us any one thing, we have to rely on ourselves. We can't rely on outside countries and outside sources. So do not listen to the craven and cowardly voices who tell you America needs to think small or to shrink from our duties or potential. Most people, they wanted to, you know, this recent situation, they wanted to do it, but they said, oh, let's not get involved. Sometimes you have to get involved. You have no choice but to get involved. If you're going to remain great, sometimes you have to get involved. Remember, I'm the peacemaker. I'm the one that settled 8 wars. I settled a war that would have killed 30 to 50 million people. India, Pakistan. You have to sometimes get involved. We are the inheritors of the most incredible civilization that has ever existed, and our task is to defend it. We have to defend it. Past leaders used our wealth and power to make other countries rich and treated our military like a charity for the world while getting barely a word of thanks in return. Nobody thanks us. They don't say, oh, thank you so much. They don't thank us. They think we're stupid. That's really what it is. They don't thank us. Now, we're using American strength to advance American interests for American citizens and to ensure that we remain the most dominant country on the face of the earth, which we're doing at levels that nobody can believe, actually. Every branch of our armed forces is setting new recruitment records that nobody thought would be possible because everyone wants to be a part of the greatest military the world has ever seen. In January, our warriors flew straight into the heart of the Venezuelan capital, captured the outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro, and brought him to face American justice, which is what he's doing right now. And very soon, this great strength will also bring about a day, 70 years in waiting. It's called A New Dawn for Cuba. We're going to help them out with Cuba. We have a lot of great Cuban Americans. Not too many people in this audience, I don't think, but you go to Miami, we have people, Cuban Americans, people that were brutally treated, whose families were killed and brutalized. And now, watch what happens. Under this governing philosophy, instead of locking down our energy resources and putting ourselves at the mercy of those that hate us, and they hate us, and they don't respect us, but they do now, we are unleashing our own supplies with those really beautiful words. Perhaps you've heard them before. Drill, baby, drill, right? And because of that, we now produce more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined, and very soon that number will more than double. That's pretty good. In addition, our new partner, Venezuela. Venezuela's been great, really doing a good job over there, is adding very substantially to that number. Likewise, instead of using our wealth to throw open our borders and feed, house, clothe, and police the entire world, we're restoring the principle that America's immigration policies must serve the best interests of America and its great citizens. It's called America First. It's very simple. America First. And we'll help other countries, but we have to view it as America First. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country left. At this moment, Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security to shield the world's most heinous and violent criminals from deportation. They want to keep them in our country. They have a murderer, killed many people. They want to keep him in our country. They're fighting very hard to keep him here. There's something, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with these people. They want to protect deranged monsters like the illegal alien from Haiti who recently beat a mother of two to death with a hammer at a Florida gas station for all to see. It was all on tape. You saw it just a week ago. Last month, a migrant criminal with 15 prior charges and 4 prior deportations threw an 83-year-old veteran onto the subway tracks in New York City, killing him instantly as he got run over by a subway train. Threw him in. It's all on tape. Democrats want to protect him. They want to protect criminal aliens. Republicans want to put them in jail or ideally deport them as long as they never come back. And under my leadership, we ended asylum fraud. We ended all catch and release. We stopped third world migration. We suspended all refugee resettlement except for persecuted South Africans. They're being persecuted. In South Africa, there's a very horrible thing going on in South Africa. It's a genocide. It's a horrible thing. And we made it possible for these people to come into our country. They kill people if they're white, if you're a white person. And I'll tell you what, I did great with the black vote, the African-American vote, and they understand this better than anybody. South Africa, they kill white farmers. And we said, you come into our country and we let you come in. You get a green card and you get a passport. You can stay in our country. Terrible, terrible. We can't let it go on. No, we don't have to talk about it. People don't like talking about it. You know, New York Times wrote a story about it years ago. That was the only story they ever wrote, because I'm sure the reporter got fired immediately. But we've deported a record number of criminal aliens, a record. Nobody's ever seen the numbers like this. And for the first time in more than 50 years, we now have reverse migration, a beautiful thing, actually. And just imagine where our country would be today if instead of spending trillions of dollars on illegal migrants who come into our country illegally and spending it on the Green New scam, one of the greatest scams in history, remember? Climate change, global warming, all of this. They actually had global warming, remember, that wasn't working because we were actually cooling as a planet. Then they had another one and another one and another one, and they were wrong. And then they just said, climate change, because climate change takes care of heat, snow, whatever you have. But past leaders had used American wealth and power to raise our civilization to brand new heights. This is the choice for every voter. In the midterms, Democrats want to drag America down, destroy our country, put it into crime, poverty, and squalor. Really the squalor of a third world nation. We would have been, if I didn't win this election, within a short period of time, we would have been a third world nation. Hard to believe, isn't it, huh? Republicans want to build America up into a nation with no rivals in human history, to make your family safer and wealthier than ever before. We're making your family safe. We're making you safe. So if you want a poor and weak America, a country that's riddled with crime, and death, disease, and nothing but problems, you should immediately vote Democrat. If you want a rich and strong and a country that you're going to be proud of, America, you must go out in the midterms and vote Republican. We need that. And I was going to say that when a president wins, Republican or Democrat, for some reason they lose the midterms often, most of the time. It doesn't make sense. Even if you have a president who's doing a good job, and I think I'm doing the best job of anybody, really, I do. But when you add it all up, when you add it all up, nobody's done what we've done. But for some reason, a president, Republican, Democrat, the party does poorly in the midterms. It doesn't make sense. I'm still trying to figure it out. We'll go out, I think probably hire a couple of psychiatrists. What the hell is going on in your mind? How does that happen? Because it should be the opposite. We're doing well. We're doing our job. We're ending wars all over the place. By the way, with the exception of our little excursion, and wait till you see prices fall. Did you see oil is down today and prices are down today? But we inherited the highest prices in the history of our country. We inherited that, and then we worked on it, and what a job we've done, and we took inflation way down. We inherited the worst inflation in history, and what a job. But we had to put out that flame. We had to put out that horrible fire, really, that was taking place in Iran. We had to do it. Otherwise, you want to see a problem? Give them a nuclear weapon. They'd use it the first day. You want to see a problem? They would use it the first day. It's not going to happen. So we're thrilled to be joined today by many incredible Arizona leaders who will help achieve this victory, including candidates for Congress, a lot of great athletes running. I don't know what this is. Jay Feely, great kicker, great athlete. Where's Jay? Jay Feely. Where's Jay? Wherever you are, Jay. Hi, Jay. Great athletes. A sheriff who I've been friends with for a long time, Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff. Good to see you, Sheriff. Got the look, right? I want to get one of those hats, Sheriff. Tell me where. Tell me where you got it. Wouldn't have to worry about my hair. I could just put that. I hear you're doing great in the polls, Sheriff, too. Representatives Juan Ciscomani, Paul Gosar, Abe Hamadeh, Eli Crane, and a really good friend of mine who's running for governor, who should win. He's great. Andy Biggs. Where's Andy? You better win, Andy. I hate to lose him from Congress. You want to know? You know, I'm sort of torn with Andy. I hate to lose him, but he'll be a great governor. Arizona GOP Chair Sergio Moreno. Sergio. Thank you, Sergio. Great job you're doing. Thank you. Thank you for all the help. Arizona Senate President Warren Peterson. Warren. Thank you, Warren. Thank you. Popular, Warren. Very popular. Treasurer Kimberly Yee. Thank you, Kimberly. Good job. State Representative Alex Collodin. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Oh, look at this guy. Oh, I can't believe it. I love this guy. So popular. A man, he's probably in his 50s, early 50s. But he's been around a long time, much longer than that. He's a special person. There was no border problem when he was here. Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Where are you? Sheriff Joe. Where's Sheriff Joe? You know, he came out for me when I was running, and I heard about him. He was sort of a legendary guy. There were no border problems, right? We had no border problems, and he endorsed me right at the beginning, Joe, right long before you saw any of the politicians that were running against. It was 18 people running, and they said, you know, Sheriff Joe endorsed you. I said, you mean from Arizona? A legend? Yeah, he endorsed you before I even started, practically. Thank you very much, Joe, and I've been with you all the way. Thank you. Appreciate it. Along with a special friend of mine and married to one of the greats, Rush Limbaugh, Catherine Limbaugh. Thank you, Catherine. She's a great woman. And a veteran Border Patrol agent who's been a fantastic friend of me and the campaign and all of the things, Art Del Cueto. Art, wherever you are, Art. And, you know, we have a lot of athletes, and I sort of think of myself, I'm sort of big. Sometimes in the wrong direction, maybe, but big. These guys are really big. Ryan Thompson of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who's a terrific player. We have a World Series champion. I met him today, and I said, you were a hell of a hitter, and really was a great player, and could be probably still a great player. Looks good. World Series champion Mark Grace. Mark? What a good hitter. And what about this guy? World Series MVP. Remember the blood pouring out of his foot? It didn't bother him at all. That blood was pouring the hell out of his foot. I remember it. Curt Schilling. Curt. Thank you. Thank you. And they're all characters, too, aren't they? It's really amazing. We like characters. Hockey Hall of Famer and a great golfer, I can tell you that. He's really a good golfer, Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, man. What a good golfer he is, too, but probably a little better at hockey, but, you know, he's supposed to be. NASCAR great, Danica Patrick. Danica? Where's Danica? Where's Danica? I love Danica. I love her hair. I always liked her hair. I like the little widow's peak. You know what a widow's peak? Danica, where are you, Danica? So great. Thank you, darling. What a job you've done. What a job you did. Former NBA All-Star, Tom Chambers. Tom, there's a big guy. I didn't want my picture next to him. He stood up. I said, is that Tom Chambers? Yeah. I said, well, let's take it. I'll stand on this side of the room. Tom, stand up. What a job you've done. Great job, Tom. Everyone loves you, too. Arizona sports legend, John Gambadoro. John Gambadoro. Thank you, John. Gambo, good job. And a lot more. We have a lot of celebrities here, but with your help, we'll continue to deliver on our mandate from the American people like no president has ever delivered before. That's what we're doing. We have a mandate, you know. They said if we could win 3 or 4 of the swing states, that would be incredible. Because it's a little harder for a Republican for some reason. I'll tell you what the reason is: they cheat. That's actually the reason. They cheat like hell. Remember I got out, I said, make it too big to rig, right? Too big to rig. Don't believe the polls. The polls had us way up. Don't believe the polls. Too big to rig. We made it too big to rig. Just keep going. If no matter what you see, go out and vote. And we made it too big to rig. But they say if I won 3 or 4 of the swing states, that should do it. And we won all 7, right? All 7 of the swing states. As you remember, I recently directed the Secretary of War. How good is Pete Hegseth doing, by the way? To begin releasing government files relating to UFOs and unexplained aerial phenomena. And I figured this was a good crowd because I know you people, you're really into that. I don't know if I am, but so I'm pleased to report today. I thought I'd save it for this crowd because you're a little bit out there, you know, a little bit. That this process is well underway, and we found many very interesting documents, I must say. And the first releases will begin very, very soon. So you can go out and see if that phenomena is correct. You'll figure it out. Let me know. Let me know. But we've had a lot of questions. It's something that really captivates the mind. There's no question about it. With your support, we will crush violent crime, impose harsh new penalties for repeat offenders. I mean, we have people that have been taken in 28 times. We have some 28 times, and they let them go out 2 days later. Crack down on Marxist prosecutors and rogue judges. The judges are horrible. Add deadly sanctuary cities in our country and end no cash bail, which really started it all. No cash bail is a disaster. Somebody shoots somebody, they go in, they just let them out. Then they go shoot somebody else the same day. We will stop the radical left Democrats' rampant looting of your taxpayer dollars, and we will win the war on fraud, which is being headed by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We're going to win it. We're going to win it. I said, J.D., I want that job. I want that job. It's so bad. You look at Minnesota, you look at California, you look at some of these states, it's so bad. Maine, believe it or not, is terrible. Maine, who would think Maine so bad? But we're right on their ass. We're right on their ass. And we will pass the great health care plan. We call it the great health care plan, to stop all payments to big insurance companies and give the money. What we want to do is this. We want the insurance companies to be cut out. We want our government not to pay trillions of dollars to insurance companies, to pay that same amount of money directly to the people, directly, and you go out and buy your own health care. And everybody likes it. The problem is the Democrats don't like it because they're owned by the insurance companies. So they vote no, no. But we're going to get it done one way or the other. We will make most favored nation discounts on drug prices permanent law. So I got you drug reductions on prescription drugs. Most favored nation. You know what that means? That means we pay the lowest of any nation in the world. When I got into office, we paid the highest of any nation in the world. I got the nations to agree because I threatened them with tariffs if they don't do it. And I got the insurance companies, I got the drug companies to do it. So your drug prices are going to be reduced by 60, 70, 80, and in some cases even more than 80%. Nobody has ever done that. And that alone should win us the midterm, but it won't, because nobody wants to write. The fake news doesn't want to write about it. It's unbelievable. With the help of our Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we will make America healthy again. MAHA. Has anyone ever heard of MAHA? We will make America healthy again. He's doing a great job, Bobby. And Dr. Oz is doing a great job. Already we eliminated petroleum-based food dyes, reformed the vaccine schedule, and introduced the real food pyramid. We're cleaning up the whole mess. It's a mess. And to help young people afford a house, we will permanently ban Wall Street from buying up thousands and thousands of single-family homes and taking them off the plate. And we will pass the Save America Act to protect our sacred American election. Where all voters must show voter ID, little things like that. All voters must show proof of citizenship. How about that? Who would think? It's a 97% issue, and the Democrats are holding it back. 97. It's 87% with Republicans and Democrats, so even Democrats want it. But the politicians don't want Democrats, because when you have policy as bad as they have, like men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, open borders where people come in totally unvetted, just walk into our country, and criminals all over the world. When you have the only way you can win is to cheat. Really, I really believe that. So they don't want to have voter ID. They don't want to have proof of citizenship. But we'll get it. We're going to get it. And no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. Mail-in ballots are a big fraud. It's a big fraud. The mail-in vote is a big fraud. And we will also add into permanent statutes a very simple thing called no men in women's sports. And no transgender mutilization surgery for your children. We're putting that in. We're putting that in because I call them best of. Do you know what best of? Best of Trump. Can you believe it? Best of Trump. Men can. Did you ever see the weightlifting records? For 18 years, the record stood, held by a young woman who was quite strong. It was like 212 pounds. That's a lot. It stood for 18 years. And then a young man decided to go the opposite route. And he wanted to become a young woman. And he transitioned. And he was a failed weightlifter in the men's division. But as a woman, he was brutal. And he broke the record. Remember, this is a record that stood for 18 years. They'd put an eighth of an ounce here, an eighth of an ounce here. For 18 years, they couldn't quite do it. He broke the record by 112 pounds. Or the swimming records. Or the long distance running records. You could go short distance also. Did you see recently there was a long distance race? It went on forever. One of these triathlete type races that top men, top women. The man won by 5 hours, 18 minutes, and 57 seconds. In fact, he went home and took a nap before getting his award. He slept for exactly 5 hours. Then he got up and picked up his award. It's very demeaning to women. It's very unfair to women. But together we will defend our cherished American heritage. We will defeat America's enemies. We will unshackle our magnificent destiny. We will return American astronauts to the moon, and we will plant our flag someday soon on Mars. For almost 250 years, our nation has stood as an inspiration to humanity and proof of what American faith and courage can achieve. It's amazing what's happened, especially what's happened over the last year. Our ancestors won our independence, vanquished foreign armies, and conquered wild frontiers. They fought perilous battles, crossed jagged mountains, and in the middle of empty deserts, they built gleaming cities like Phoenix, Arizona. Have you heard of it? right from a desert. Generations before us poured out their blood, sweat, and tears to make America into the most exceptional nation the world has ever known. And today we are making it more exceptional than ever thought possible, than ever before. With your support in these midterms, we will continue this momentum and achieve total and ultimate victory for America. We will fight, 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 and win, win, win. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Arizona. Thank you. Thank you. Win those midterms. Thank you, everybody.
The Paul Harrell Program.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red 5 works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the show. We were just listening to President Donald Trump live from Arizona. Basically ate up most of my second hour, but we were promising you all during the first hour that when he started speaking, that's exactly what we were going to do. Broadcasting live from Arkansas. We got about 10 minutes left until we're going to hand it off to Secret America. It's like people were saying in the comments when I was apologizing for not getting the entirety of the speech. They said, "Don't worry, Paul, we've heard the speech before." We have. This was specifically more about, how do we build the red wall? That's now the phrase. I wonder if they're going to stick with that or not. Building the red wall, trying to secure the midterms in light of everything that's gone on. And there's still, I will say this, it is, as we record this or broadcast this, we're talking about, it's April the 17th today. I just know this from years of experience covering the news. There's a long time between now and April and November. Huge amounts of news cycles that are going to take place between now and then. And so we'll see when and a lot of this, people, a lot of Americans, this is just the way it is. Obviously, I think the war in Iran got more people paying attention than normal because of rising gas prices, potentially rising food prices and everything else. Hopefully we see those go back down if this peace holds. But a lot of people really don't start to care about elections until they get out of summer. I mean, we're still in spring and we're about to go into summer. And, once the summer vacations are over, now people start to really pay attention. And that's also when, the media really kicks things up as well for the election. So we'll talk about that. I'm just trying to say the news cycle is going to change. That's what I'm trying to say. As we wind things down here on this Friday, hope you have a great weekend. The House is allegedly moving to expunge Trump's impeachment record because of what the great work that Tulsi Gabbard has done. Also, we have this. RFK Jr. has been on Capitol Hill. He's been sparring with the Democrats, obviously, who can't stand him or the Maha agenda because they worship doctors and they worship the medical industrial complex. And while we still have a lot more work to do on that, and Big Pharma is trying to scapegoat Big Food and Big Ag so that they don't have to be accountable to how they're poisoning us. We're being poisoned on both fronts, actually. The fact that RFK Jr. represents a new way of thinking and he's willing to challenge the modern conventions, the status quo, he is their enemy. RFK Jr. revealing, though, in this testimony that the Biden administration was actually blocking Christian families from adopting kids. I guess they would rather the kids go to like gay couples. And I'll reference me and Rob's conversation yesterday about the benefits of having kids raised in a two-parent household where there's a mother and a father.
President Trump and the First Lady, who's been extraordinary for us to work with, have said their vision is one family for one child. Right now, we have a 2-to-1 ratio. And part of the reason for that is that the Biden administration was excluding an entire class of people because of their religious beliefs and told the states to actually pass laws, instructed them to pass laws refusing families who had certain religious beliefs, mainly Christian religious beliefs, to not be allowed to have children. And that dramatically constricted the pool of available parents.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. Parents raising more Christians is a direct threat to a government that sees itself as God. Parents raising, adopted children as Christians and raising them in the fear and admonition of the Lord and raising them to not be converts to the woke sex religion, parents raising kids and not putting them on a path to hell goes against what they're, the spiritual terraforming they're attempting to do across this country, what they have attempted to do and what they're still attempting to do in many regards. Not, formally from government now that we're in control, although there's probably, still elements of that when it comes to being anti-family, but mainly we know what Biden wanted, and they want less Christians because Christians actually affect the most positive good for the neighbors, for your neighbors and for the country, and they don't want that. Also, Christians are by nature more industrious because of what the book says, the good book says, what the Bible says about how to live as a Christian and how to, if you don't work, you don't eat. That's not very good if you're wanting a giant welfare state to essentially sap people's motivations and work ethic so that you'll, depend on them. If you want a shrinking middle class, you would want adoptions to go towards pagans and non-Christians. Because ultimately that a thriving Christian population and more Christians will strengthen the middle class as well, specifically in an American context too. So it's no surprise that that's the case. It's also no surprise that, had Kamala Harris won, we would have been one step closer to putting Christians in boxcars. I firmly believe that is their goal. The anti-Christian bias is palpable, certainly was, and We know what their plans were for us. So it is a mercy that we have been given this time, and that is why we must make the most of it. And they also know they have a demographic problem. The whole woke sex religion depends on new converts. It depends on taking the children, the result of a normal union, the result of a man and a woman producing a child. Their entire movement demographically depends on corrupting the kids, and or else this whole thing is going to work itself out, right? Especially, and this is happening, Christians, biblical Christians, are having more kids, right? The left is not having kids. You've got men out there, you've got woke, sissified men that, with the war on women that they try to say is out there, they went out and got themselves vasectomies. Okay, this only actually works to the advantage of those who are Christians who are still producing children. So they do have a demographic. Now, our birthing rate is too low, there's no question, but not necessarily among Christians or fundamentalist Christians. RFK Jr. also confirms that of the 1.4 million people purged from taxpayer health care, they're illegal aliens.
So over $1 trillion comes out over the next 10 years. Report after report says 15 million people could lose their health insurance.
How is that a cut?
Okay, let's talk about
that. Is only a cut in Washington, D.C.
Have you met with any of the 1.4 million people who have lost their health insurance just this last year from dropping off of Obamacare? Have you sat down and talked to those folks about the fact they won't have their health insurance again?
They're almost all illegal immigrants.
Oh, well, you know what? It sounds like you haven't met with folks like Portia in my district.
We found 1.5 million illegal immigrants illegally collecting Medicaid.
Mr. Secretary, there are people like Portia in Buda, Texas, whose health insurance costs went from $100 a month to $500 a month. People like my constituent Shauna in San Marcos, Texas, her premium went from $250 to $750 a month. Now,
and she's probably an illegal. And then we had this virtue signaling situation, which we're going to run out of time for, but it's pretty funny. It's this Democrat. What's her name? McBath. One vowel away from the one word you don't want to say if you're about to do a stage play. One vowel away. This lady's last name, McBath. So, this Democrat McBath said, "You said autistic kids can't do daily functions." Actually, I was talking about people with profound autism, who bang their head up against the wall, that can't go to the bathroom by themselves. Will you apologize to those families? RFK, of course not. Well, that's very sad. RFK then looks at her and says, "Oh, are those crocodile tears you're crying?" Because she's not really crying. She's just virtue signaling. Anyway, it was certainly entertaining watching RFK on the Hill. That is all the time we have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. This is the time, since it's Friday, I hope you all have a blessed weekend. Specifically, I hope you have a blessed Lord's Day. And for those of you who don't go to church, I would encourage you to find a church that preaches the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners. For those of you who do go to church, have a blessed Lord's Day, and we'll see you back here on Monday.